Streaming now on CBS News Los Angeles, this is Primary Countdown. Less than a week to go, a crowded field narrowed. Three leading contenders in the race for LA mayor. Can Kevin De Leon catch frontrunners Rick Caruso and Karen Bass? And a heated contest for LA County Sheriff with just days remaining. Who has emerged as the biggest challenge to incumbent Alex Villanueva? And the battle for Congress, the issues taking center stage as we head into the midterm election. Just a week from the countdown, the critical primary countdown, and of course we will be following all of the latest developments as we go forward. The heated contest continues, and LA voters are set to narrow down their top picks for LA mayor from a crowded field, or just two, perhaps choosing the next mayor outright. Congresswoman and candidate for LA mayor Karen Bass going door to door in Leimert Park, meeting voters. Now just 1 week to go until the election.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's been a little brutal.
Bass is working hard to lock up one of the top two spots in the primary. And with recent polls showing many undecided voters still out there, she's now making her final pitch.
To me, the closing argument is that, you know, I've been immersed in these issues for a long time. I think it's going to take every level of government in order to solve this problem, and I have relationships on every level.
Look at that hand. Where's that hand going?
Billionaire developer Rick Caruso was also out campaigning Monday in the Pico Robertson neighborhood. Caruso emphasizing his experience in business when asked about rising prices and the potential threat to the economy.
The city really needs somebody at the top, the mayor that understands business, because we need to reduce the cost of doing business in the city to help support small businesses like the one we're standing in, because everything that this family is doing is going to cost more money.
Caruso continuing his pitch that he's the one who will make the city safer.
Everybody's talking about they want their families to be safe, their kids to be safe, to be able to go out and sit and have lunch or dinner and not worry about it, be able to walk to the synagogue. You know, this Jewish community needs to be able to walk in peace and freedom and safety. And hate crimes are up 130%. We should all be outraged.
Of LA County's 5.6 million registered voters, just over 384,000 ballots have been returned. About 4,500 people have cast a ballot in person.
People are waiting to vote. A lot of people still, that's one thing that I've encountered, was a number of people who have their ballots, but they want to go vote in person. They don't have confidence in putting their ballot in the mail, and that's understandable. They don't know necessarily that you can actually track your ballot and know that it's been counted.
City Councilman Kevin De Leon's campaign also says he is ramping up his voter outreach here in the final stretch. We're told he'll be canvassing neighborhoods, visiting businesses, and holding events with community leaders. And for analysis on this and other headlines from this week, the campaign trail, we are bringing in our panel of political experts. And joining me once again tonight is Fernando Guerra, political science professor at LMU, and veteran LA city and county leader Zev Yaroslavsky, now at the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs. Thank you both for joining me so much. We really appreciate you coming. And of course, the mayoral election now just days away. What are the biggest headlines right now, Professor Guerra, that you're seeing?
Well, number one, there's a lot of discussion about whether Rick Caruso can get 50%. I don't believe so, but the discussion is that he's been gaining track, and every time there's a survey or a poll, it shows him with a higher percentage of the vote. And if you extrapolate, you say, oh, he'll get over 50%. I think it's way too difficult. It really has narrowed down to a two-person race, Congresswoman Karen Bass and developer Rick Caruso.
And Zev, do you think that it's possible that Zev could cross over that 50% line and win this thing outright?
Well, you meant Rick. I wish I had his resources, but look, the likelihood of this being won in the primary are slim, but they're not impossible. What's of interest to me is that the voter turnout thus far is extremely low and extremely older. The plurality of people who have voted thus far, returned their ballots to the county registrar, are over 65 years of age. Well over half the people who have voted so far over 55. That probably helps Caruso a bit. It's a more conservative vote, but there's still 6 days left. I think the turnout's going to be lower than we all expected. If the numbers quadruple between now and Tuesday. Right now, 8% of the people have returned their ballots, so it'll be 32%, which is a lot lower than what we anticipated. So I think it's unlikely. I agree with Fernando that it could be won in the primary, but it's not impossible.
In terms of the money that we've been talking about, Professor Guerra, I mean, he's record-breaking spending here for Caruso. It does seem like he's trying to push it to that 50% line, just because if he does have to compete in the general, it's a whole different kind of race, right? I mean, there's a lot more tension on it. People are much more focused in November.
No, I mean, I think he's done a cost benefit analysis, and his consultants are telling him, look at the projections. It's possible for us to win it. And if you make certain assumptions, they're right. And given how much money he has, if I was their campaign, I would go for it as well. I think there's a slim chance. But so from them, it's like, hey, why not spend another $5 million right now instead of another 25 in the general election? So it's a risk that has a lot of benefits and little cost other than his own money, and he's got plenty of that.
And then under the sheriff's race, that's obviously one of the other high-profile races we're seeing here. There hasn't been too much polling done on this, but if you had to sort of kind of give a guide of where this race stands right now, Zev, where do you think Alex Villanueva is? Do you think he's in danger?
Yeah, I think he's in danger of being forced into a runoff. What happens after that is anybody's guess. We in my survey, which is not of registered voters exclusively, but most of our countywide respondents are registered voters. His favorability versus unfavorability rating was 37-33. That's not nothing. It's nothing to cheer about if you're Villanueva. But he's very controversial. He's very divisive. He's been in a perpetual fight with the Board of Supervisors, with the Inspector General, with the Citizens Oversight Commission. He's got a lot of baggage on him, but he's stabilized too. He dropped in popularity over the last 2 or 3 years since he took office, but it's stabilized, and he's actually improved his lot a tad. And he's got good feral instincts. He's used George Gascon, the district attorney, who's very unpopular right now. He's used him as a foil, and he's tried to capitalize on certain issues. So I don't rule him out in the general, but I do not believe he's going to get 50% plus one on Tuesday.
Professor Guerra, who do you think has the best chance at this point of defeating him?
Well, I think he will be the top vote getter this June. I don't think he gets 50%. And then really it's the race between, I think, former police chief of Long Beach, Luna, Eli Vera, and a couple of others. And that's really the race. The race is who's going to come in second. And also there's Cecil Rambo from LAX police. And I think almost all of the other candidates, with the exception of one, will probably endorse whoever comes in second. And I think you'll see the vast majority of political and civic LA endorse that individual, including the LA Times and a bunch of other organizations. And it will be tough for Villanueva, I think, to survive in November. It's a long time. You ask me in 4 or 5 months, I might change my mind. But right now, he doesn't win 50% in the primary, and he probably loses in November.
And then, Zev, I mean, there is still this variable, even though we've had mail-in voting now for a few years, it hasn't been universal for an LA mayor's race. So that does add kind of a wild card, right?
Well, I think it changes the nature of the turnout, right? It's I mean, the turnout in the 2017 mayor's race, I believe, was under 20%, 15 to 17%, something in that order, which was extremely low. If it gets into the 30% turnout range or 35%, that'll be more than twice as much as what it was before. I think in the general election in November, the turnout will be considerably higher than what it was in what it is going to be on Tuesday. That favors the more Democratic candidate, the more progressive candidate, because the difference between those who vote in the primary and those who vote in the general election are people who are working people, people who focus their attention on the main event, not the prelim, so to speak. And so you may see a 40-50% turnout in November, which will change the whole demographic from the primary, and it's radically different than it was in 2017, when you could almost count on two hands the number of people who came out to vote.
All right, let's hit one more topic here. This is this is probably on some people's radars just from seeing these ads on TV. So this last topic, it's online betting, right? The commercials, as I said, are pretty much nonstop for a lot of folks. And Indian tribes with casinos want to ban companies